Good morning once again. Okay. Now, how many of you here are really enjoying the cold weather? How many of you now wish that you can actually bottle the weather or the air with you and bring it back? I thought about that, which was crazy. It's not going to happen, but look, my name is Austrian once again. I'm the workforce training consultant here with the College of VE. And I'm joined here with my colleagues from the college and who are subject matter experts, which you'll hear from shortly afterwards. And we want to say a warm welcome to all of you here once again to our College of Vocational Education session. Right? Now, this is how we will probably run through the session. So I'll give you an overview of the College of Vocational Education, some of the RMIT as a university as a whole and where we fit into the university. Then what we'll do is that when we have our subject matter experts to present, they have told me you are okay to ask them some questions. All right? But I'll be watching the time because we need to move on as well to the other speakers. And then towards the end of the session, we'll have a panel discussion. And then after that, if time permits, we'll allow more questions. All right? But because it's a Friday, just relax. All right? Okay, let's start off. You have the stay clicker. Sorry. Next one. Okay. All right, so who's RMIT? So RMIT is a dual sector university here in Melbourne. We've got 3 campuses here in Melbourne itself, 2 in Vietnam, and a research center in Barcelona. Now, all in all, we offer over 450 programs, and any given one time we have close to 100,000 students worldwide. That's slide. All right, just a bit of information on the RMIT and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Now we are proud to play a role in progressing of all 17 of the UN Sustainability Development Goals, and we are ranked 22 overall in the world and 4 in Australia. Right, and some of the information are up there as you can see, and those are the work that has been involved. Okay, just to give you an idea of the network that we have here. Of course, we have the RMIT Europe, where we have got partner institutions as well. We've got in Europe, of course, RMIT Vietnam. We've got campuses, university campuses in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, and also in Singapore, partner in China, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong. I believe there's one in India as well. That's right. So we've got to get the slides updated, but just to give you some information that we are actually growing as we speak. I'll just share with you a little bit about knowledge and action. And one of the things that we focus on, number one, is that it's just not knowledge itself, but it's, sorry, just go back, slide, just one back. It's knowledge and action. No one is that whatever that we train or deliver as we teach is something that we can apply to work. And there are actually 3 directions, as you can see here, that we adopt, which is learning through life and work, research, innovation for impact, and serving our communities. Right? And the goal of it, as you can see here, so it's through learning, it's learning through life and work and research, innovation for impact. The goal is to extend RMIT's research and innovation system. So you can see here, it's actually a combination of all that. This is the strategy that we have. Number one, I think one of the things that we want to really highlight here, and one of the things that we put a lot of emphasis on is actually impact. All right, so whatever that we do here, whatever programs that we do or participate in a collaboration or partnership, we want to be able to make an impact to the areas of the country. Okay. Now, so there are 4 colleges, main colleges here at RMIT. We've got the College of Business and Law, the STEM College, Research, and of course the College of Vocational Education. Now today is my favorite topic, the College of Vocational, all right, education. Now here at the College of VE, we offer around about 150 programs, and we are made up of 5 industry clusters. I'll go into the classes a bit shortly. We have the 3 campuses here in Melbourne, here, the City campus, and we've got one which is about 10 minutes to our north, I believe that is, which is our Brunswick campus. That's where our creative industry sits. And we've also got our Bandura campus, which is about 30 minutes north from here, and that's where our we've got trade school there, allied health, engineering faculty there as well. All right. So all in all, with RMIT, as we say, we're close to 100,000 students overall, and big part of it, which is about close to 20,000, actually sits here with our College of VE. Everybody okay so far? Yeah. All right. I'm rushing it a little bit because I really want to give you the time to our subject matter experts, which you want to hear from them. All right, these are the 5 clusters that we have. All right, creative industries, fashion, textile, right? Graphic, design, screen, media, animation. That all sits in our VE, one of the classes. In fact, you will have the opportunity and privilege to hear from one of our program managers, Jessie, who will be speaking to you a little bit more about that. Then we've got future technologies, and this is where the Industry 4.0, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing 4.0, right? So that's where it sits, and it's also got aerospace, avionics, robotics in some sense as well in that cluster. Business and enterprise, you will hear from again our program manager Jeremy Glover shortly, and I won't say much about it. I'll let him do the talking for that one. Then we've got the built environment sustainability, and that's our traditional trades: carpentry, plumbing, electrical, but also refrigeration, air conditioning, others. One of the things that RMIT is very proud to have is a CO2 lab, transcritical CO2 lab, and we're the only ones who have it in the Southern Hemisphere. Okay, so and that's where they learn about air conditioning, refrigeration. And the 5th one is social care and health, nursing, allied, dental care, that's sort of community support and youth work, educate disability. And that's also another big cluster that we have. So far, so good? Okay. Our focus has always been to prepare our students for the future of work. So therefore, the programs that we deliver, it's going to be relevant to the work of today and the future. And we've applied digital and future skills into work. Focus has been learner-centric solution, where it's really about the students that we have, the learner itself. And of course, we're trying to make it relevant to the workplace. Okay. So at RMIT, one of the things that we offer as a dual sector, of course, is pathway. So we provide pathway solution. Okay. And we, of course, the focus there is employability. Well, integrated learning. So this is where a lot of our students get to experience work as well as part of their learning. And Now, lifelong learning is one that we believe in. So we provide opportunity as a dual sector. We give our students the opportunity for lifelong learning, and one of the things that we encourage for them to do so. Okay. Let's also speak to you a little bit about women stand there. That's okay. We'll leave the slide there. Now, there's a strong emphasis on women as well, so it's to really just to support women and to participate in training as well and to grow up the skills. So we believe that women in this country has a lot to offer. Right? So, and this is one of the focus that we are working on. And I know that I've been working on one project recently, and the focus is mainly on women in trades. So, and that's really an exciting thing to look at with that program. Okay, and there's a few partnerships models here. One of the works that I've been doing, of course, our focus is partnerships. We do collaborative partnership models, so we work with companies or organizations. Of course, the other one is workforce development. Likewise, as the same, we can co-design programs to make it relevant to the requirements of each organization. Do co-badging. If we were to partner with an education partner, we can co-badge. And of course, we respond and paste. Okay. Before we go to Germany, I just want to just give you a sense of the kind of partnerships that we have at the moment. It's still growing. Of course, we have got the Australian defence. Defence is also one of the big areas, which is the sixth area of the College of Vocational Education, which is, I don't know what you call it, silent, but whatever it is well and truly there. There will be support, of course, the Australian defence in training as well. Cricket as an education, where it's business, it's a leadership and management program that is only run through the academy. So our students get to experience the sporting world while doing the diploma. How cool is that, right? So you mentioned that. Of course, then we've got allied health, dental health, as well as the Victorian Aboriginal legal services as well. So, and we hope to do a lot more. It's just some of the examples of the partnership that we can share. Okay, so my time is up, I believe. Now, how's the fun part? So all the housing, right? So this overview, and now the fun stuff. I'd like to introduce you to one of my colleagues that I really enjoy and I had the privilege of working with, and that's Jeremy Glala, who's the project manager for Global Business and Leadership. And trust me, you'll have a treat hearing from Jeremy here, right? Thank you very much, Thomas. That was a very long introduction. Now I have to live up to the height of that introduction. So yeah, my name is Jeremy Glala, and I'm the program manager in our Global Business and Leadership area. What I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today is a program that we just delivered last year in Ho Chi Minh City, and it's about a digital uplift, predominantly in transformation. And the cohort of people that we talk to, sorry, that's where I have to stand. The cohort of people that we talked to were predominantly vet leaders and people who worked in the logistics area in Vietnam. And it was a really interesting project, and I want to share some of those insights and learnings with you. Look, as part of the, as I was explaining, as part of the vocational education, college vocational education, I also look after a couple of programs that you just mentioned on that previous slide, which were about embedding students in industry. The focus that I look after programs with the Essendon Football Club and the cricket, because there's a lot of young people who love sport, they want a job in the sport industry, so why not pick them up
and put them in the industry to learn. And that's something that we found has been a really great partnership model and something that we'd like to continue to explore. So that's one of those things. Because of this learn by doing approach, we wanted to take the same approach when we go and deliver internationally as well. People bring all of their ideas and all of their experiences together, and our job was really to facilitate and start to let those ideas rise and work out some good ways and maybe some new methodologies to address those kind of issues. So it's been a great process to be able to do that. We worked under a program that is called AUS4Skills. I'm sure some people might have heard of AUS4Skills, maybe others not. It's basically a relationship between the Vietnamese and Australian government to provide money to help uplift areas of digital innovation and other program areas. So that's the funding that we looked at this one. And what we wanted to do was get people to bring the ideas from either their own colleges, so their own vet colleges, so they might have problems they wanted to solve, or the logistics industry. We had a few representatives from there bring the problems to solve, and then we can help workshop some ideas. Now, of course, we can't solve every problem in 2 weeks, but it was about understanding some good methodology to apply to be able to start that problem-solving process. I know there's a slight lag on here. I got it pointed to the right spot. Yeah. How's that? So, digital readiness and resilience of vocational education systems in ASEAN short course program is what we did, and that's what I'm about to do, is share a bit of knowledge about innovation and digital transformation in VET. What we did is that we went to Ho Chi Minh City and delivered a 2-week program. And then when everybody started to develop the programs and problem statements that they would like to solve, we then ran a series of webinars. So we came back here to Melbourne, we ran some live webinars, worked through some of the issues as everybody developed their solutions, and then we went back to Ho Chi Minh City and had a symposium, which was a great opportunity for everybody to come back and say, well, I tried this or I tried that, and this worked, that didn't work, and it was a really exciting situation. So I've got a couple of those programs to show you. There we go. There's the team that went over, Alyssa and me and Peter and Jai, and we all came from very different backgrounds. Jai is a very young PhD student with a fantastic understanding of tech. Peter is a logistics specialist with a really strong understanding of robotics and automation, and he had a great thing to do. I'm a leader in the sort of program design space, and Alyssa was my director at the time, and she brought another broad pile of skills to the mixture. What we were really looking at, so 28 students, a couple of facts. We had 28 students. Now, the students were from all over Vietnam. So we had people from Hanoi and from areas outside. We had about 20 or 25% female participation into the course, which was good. And we had 3 people with recognised disabilities, which for me was a really interesting thing, because we're looking at a brand new program, hopefully for the end of this year, where we might go back under a similar arrangement and look at disability, diversity and inclusion in the workforce. Again, into the vet system and into the logistics system. So what we realised very quickly and understood is that we had to find the local context. What were the barriers? What were people actually seeing were the issues? And it was very much not about us just coming in and going, oh, well, here's some good software, here's a digital solution that you might like, because the real truth of the issue was understanding the process and being able to bring people with you or bring your organisation along to be able to understand it. We also wanted to look at some emergent technology and have a play with that. And we also wanted to expose our participants to as a broader range of guest speakers and site visits that we could. So we managed to get into a company called Intel that you might know, who do make all the chips. We went to Droppy, we went to Lazada, and we got to look at some of those processes and some of those supply chain issues and all the rest of it, and people issues, what was actually happening. Plus we went and visited some vocational colleges. RMIT Vietnam is a higher education provider only. RMIT Vietnam don't provide the VET. So for us from Melbourne to come over, we can use the support systems of RMIT Vietnam, who have been there for 24 years and are well established in the country. So we can help you to use that to build our programs. Yeah. When we did the actual course, digital literacy, transformation, emerging technologies, challenges, and our organisational readiness, that's how we stepped through some of the learning. And the first week, we did a week of key knowledge and concepts, and we got people to work in activities to try and develop that stuff. And in the second week, we took a practical focus on really developing problems and listening to what those problems are. What I found was fantastic feedback from some of our participants was that it was the methodology and the approach that we used to solving problems which was really valuable. So we employed design thinking as a way and a methodology to start to really come down and define what the problem is and then understand the solutions. And all that, obviously go through what outcomes are we trying to get, what sort of systems and tools would we use, what are co-design principles that we could understand and transfer, and also in some places, particularly the vet colleges, how they could use either the existing workforce or the students to drive change, and how we could interact in that way. So I'll just jump to the next slide if that's okay. There we are in a hotel. I think there's Peter and Alyssa and Jai and the rest of us. What we realised is that we needed effective methods of translation because most of the cohort did not speak English. So we had live translation set up in the corner. So I got very used to wearing an earpiece and listening. Apart from Xin Chao, I think my Vietnamese is still terrible. But I did spend a lot of time listening and being able to work through that. What we realised also that was going to work best is that if we made fun out of what we were doing. So we employed games to learn. We brought some tech pieces in with us, like Raspberry Pis. We had some VR headsets that we brought along. So people could explore things in a virtual and augmented reality. There's the site visits that I talked to. We looked at that VR metaverse. We also managed to click into some of RMIT's global network, and we had a live stream from one of our friends and partners in South Africa. It was 5 o'clock in the morning for him, but he live streamed into our lunchtime meeting in Ho Chi Minh City and talked about the project that they were doing, which was GPS location logistics Pan-Africa. So it was something that was very applicable to the Vietnamese context in the future, about how to look at much more accuracy in delivery of goods and all of that kind of stuff. It was a fantastic session, and I think what the participants really loved was they were like, we are talking live to someone in South Africa today through RMIT in Ho Chi Minh City, and that it wasn't something that was done every day. So we found very quickly that But the enemies cohort were pretty competitive. And once we started to play games where there was a competition element, the mood in the room lifted pretty quickly, and people got right into it. So it was a great way to do things. Thanks. I will take note of the very top there that said timing and food. There was one day, every day we had a everybody on their phone could give us a rating, 1 out of 5, as to how good the day was. And there was one day that we all got 4, and not 5. Most days were 5s. And I'm like, why did we get 4s that day? And then I realised we went 5 minutes into lunchtime. And everybody was very sad because there was a buffet lunch and some people had already eaten the seafood. So this was a big problem, and so I can tell you now we didn't do it again. Made sure that we always went. So there's me and Linda and some of thing. Miss Kim Ahn over there, she was fantastic. She's the leader of Event College in outside Hanoi, and they were a really fantastic crew to work with. You know, one thing I'll never forget about Miss Kim Ahn is that she did say that the design thinking process was not something that she had tried before in her own experience. And when we broke it down and started to look at how we would develop these problem statements and solutions, it was the methodology that she found really good. She was also very impressed as we started to talk a bit about gender balance, and she was very impressed that we had quite a few women as part of our team, and that she was one of the few women in a position of that sort of authority. And she felt a lot of solidarity. I think it was a great experience. After we've gone through all our working, we ended up with our symposium at the end, which was not only was it a great experience for us to because it was 2 months later. We've done a 2-week delivery. We've had 2 months away from each other, and then we get to all come back together for 1-day symposium. We had a nice hotel, we had nice food, and everybody brought their solutions and their ideas and got to manage to talk it and share. What I think was also really good is that there was people in the logistics area and people in the vet area who will eventually learn how to provide staff into the logistics area that were making really good connections. And one of those issues that kept coming up from a vet provider is how do we get better connection to industry? And this was a good way to have a direct working relationship in that space. I'm nearly done in case I'm going over time. Does it want to? Oh, was that the last slide of mine anyway? Didn't jump. Oh, I just want to keep talking. I'm quite happy right now. If anybody has any immediate questions that they would like to ask about that program, I'm happy to take a question now, or we can come back when we have the panel and you can ask a few more questions then. Does anyone have anything immediate? Or? No, good. I look forward to having a chat, and I'll be around. We can talk more about any of these issues. But I'm just going to say that we are putting in a tender in, as I said, to do another one of these at the end of this year. I love it. I love being in that environment and sharing our knowledge, and I love when I get back more, because what I found is that the participants that I've worked with, I think I learn more than anybody else. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. It was a wonderful insight and, of course, a lived experience where he was in sharing that story. And right now, I'm going to introduce you to a very important team, and these are the senior learning designers of our programs, and you don't have one, but 2 of them. I'll first introduce Andrew Newhouse, who will come and share the next session with you. Andrew.
Thank you very much, all. I'm here today to discuss a little bit about a project that started back in 2020 and it has progressed on through now and has enabled the college to set up and develop universal design principles in, I guess, central practice. So our team supports centrally all of our different industry clusters. So solutions that our team designs and provides need to be applicable across our college. So next. So the first one. I'll just wait for that to come on. Not sure. It appears as though the technology is failing us today in this digital ready solution. Great. So the way in which our college took things was framed around, I guess, COVID and some of the solutions that we're attempting to find, obviously short-term and fast solutions, and turning that into something which was useful and functional for the college as a whole. So we took this as a way to run one-on-one interviews both with teachers and students, lots of them, to find out how they were engaging with our resources, mainly on our LMS, our Canvas LMS. We, back in 2017, transitioned to Canvas LMS from Blackboard, and that was a fairly quick and hasty transition. So there are lots of things that we learnt that we could do better, and this was kind of a way to pull all those together and to start to apply some more universal design principles to make a bit more of a consistent approach to the way in which we deliver quality courses to our student cohort. We also looked at, obviously, a lot of qualitative responses that students feed back to us through regular course experience surveys to try frame how and why students were liking what we were doing and how we could improve on that. Try this again. There is still a bit of a lag, but bear with us while we deal with that. So the next one, great. This is what we found. We found that students wanted and craved greater consistency with the way in which our college and the rest of RMIT have approached our LMS. It is fairly decentralised in that teachers have a lot of editability and purchase on how and their courses look and what's contained within those courses. So we really needed to provide some guidance around that. Ultimately, it is up to the teachers to apply these. If in a perfect world, some other areas and other institutions take more of a centralised approach, that requires effective resourcing up front, but it does apply some things. So we were starting from the approach where we were already a decentralised space, and we were providing teachers with some tools that would assist them to be able to build great quality courses and engaging courses. Accessible content development is a great thing. It's something that we continue to engage and to educate our teachers about and provide them with tools to apply that. Provide flexibility so that you could do a traditional course where it's sage on a stage, teacher gives the content and then students go home and do the work. You could flip the classroom, you could do a blended model, you could do it fully online, needed to apply to all of those combinations of courses. There was obviously several pain points. RMIT is a large institution. We've got a number of different systems that are involved, attendance tracking, assessment setup, and those types of things. So some of those things we really wanted to hit with the template that we were developing. So I'll give you a few examples of what's included within the template. So these are basically what we consider our development principles, that a student and a teacher should be able to clearly identify what is happening within the course at any one time. So you might need to send a teacher in to cover a course due to sickness, and the teacher should be able to pick up where and what is happening within that course fairly clearly, just from the module section within the course. So I'm not sure if you've got a lot of experience in the Canvas LMS, but modules is the best place for that. It allows us to pull in a number of different content options within a logical structure to make sure that students, so you can call it week one, you can call it topic one, so long as it's some form of logical progression of the course. Be consistent with the language, so that goes to assessments, it goes to the way in which you set up your modules, and be flexible and have varied content. So you might have some auto-marked quizzes, you might have some discussion forums where there's a bit more engagement and feedback that's required, et cetera, et cetera. This is just an example of one completed, I guess, module, weekly module, where you've got a number of different content options in there. So you've got some after-class content, you've got some learning activities as well, and just some general pages and bookend by intro and end. So I'll take you on next to some of the consistency with, I guess, the navigational items. So Canvas is infinitely editable and manipulatable. So you can have a number of different options here. So RMIT as a whole, we put out when we first started with Canvas something called 14 elements, and we were trying to make this as applicable to our college as possible and adaptable as well. So you'll see that there's two different views there, from the student view and the teacher view of the course navigation. That's obviously because teachers need some different information than that, but that's kind of what we recommend out to teachers. It's entirely up to them. We included in a distributable template, which we push to what we call Canvas Commons. That's how we distribute our templates. And then assessment templates are another big thing, and we're continually working through this process to enhance those and to become more of a digital-first development process. Our past development has always been do your Word version of your assessment and then push that into Canvas. But because of that, there's sometimes a bit of a disjunct between what you're actually wanting to achieve with the Word doc and how it's digital ready. So that's where we come in, and we're working with our quality team to make sure they're digital first from the start. Great, and I will move on to the next aspect, which is ensuring, there we go, some accessible design tools which we use within the college, but also the wider RMIT. So the accessibility report checker, I'll give you an example of that in a second. That's a great tool. I'll show you what that looks like and feels like shortly. Immersive Reader it's a Microsoft-based product. It's available in a lot of different Microsoft tools. Canvas has a strong linkage with Microsoft, and it's inbuilt within and turned on within our Canvas instance and many other Canvas LMS instances, which allows you to, for instance, read text out loud, in some cases to read it in different languages, and to work through kind of those things. Immersive Reader is different functionality within some of the different tools, but that's the core of it. So you can do it in Word, you can do it in PowerPoint, and students and teachers can also use that within our LMS as well. So Emble is another great tool. So it's a tool which allows our teachers and us to design things with some kind of page-based templates. It's a tool which is built within Canvas and allows you to automatically kind of pull in different content types and gives you the framing for those and prompts for accessibility requirements as well. So leaving your alt text and leaving a description of the videos, those types of things. And closed captions are entirely important and embedded within our video production suite within Canvas, which is called Canvas Studio. But it's also important to remember sometimes they can be auto-created, but you do also have to review those to make sure they're accurate. So this is just an example I've got of the accessibility checker, which I mentioned. So this is kind of on a course level. So our accessibility checker can kind of look over the entire course and look at how much and what percentage it meets in terms of our accessibility requirements. So it gives you a great little dashboard there. As you can see, you can go straight to the low scoring content, the easiest issues to fix, and you can view the different types of content that are peeing that. And we aim for 90% as a minimum in some cases. As you can see, this is one of on the lesser side, but we aim for 90% as a minimum. But we're also working through with our accessibility champions as well, that they're currently going through a policy refresh because there's been some changes to some of the accessibility requirements. So that's in progress at the moment. But as you can see, we encourage, obviously, when we were moving from the Blackboard LMS, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blackboard, it's a space where it was more of a file dumping ground for teachers. And now Canvas is kind of a much more engaging and interactive type environment. So we're encouraging our teachers to move away from just put a PowerPoint up, frame that PowerPoint, maybe do a discussion around that if you're going to use that PowerPoint, or pull that PowerPoint apart and actually design that content natively within the LMS so that A, it's more accessible, and B, students can also engage with that differently rather than it's not a PowerPoint. I say this while I'm presenting a PowerPoint to you, so I understand a bit of the irony there. This is on the macro, the single content piece level. So this is just an example of how our accessibility checker treats individual pieces of content. So this is one which is working really well, obviously. You'll see that there's description there, but it prompts you with a little red or orange or red, green icon next to the image if it's meeting the accessibility requirements natively within Canvas. So our teachers can basically, I can look at a page, any page within our LMS, and determine whether it's meeting our accessibility requirements immediately. I don't have to go into that detail just yet. I can just see it from those little icons which are appearing for us. And this is the one which we don't encourage the use of a lot. The images for decorative purposes only. Especially when you're using the images for assessment tasks and those types of things. So Embl, this is the other tool which kind of bookends and allows the accessibility requirements and kind of leverages off those. But it basically allows you to develop whole page bits of content or individual bits of content, and also encourages teachers to be a bit more creative and prompt with content. So you're not just, I guess, putting one video on the page, you're being encouraged to provide a leading sentence in why is that video important? How is that video important to what you're actually learning now? What do you need to get out of that to then be successful within the assessment that that video will relate to? So as of 2023, we're working through this year to actually tailor Embl to our college and to get some of our templated content built directly into Embl, so it's easier for teachers to be able to access that and pull that directly into their courses. Great. I might pass over to my esteemed colleague, Jess. I appreciate your time, everyone. And if you do have any questions, let's go through that at the end.
I'm also a senior learning designer like Andrew, but my team works in innovation projects, which means we develop usually for the Victorian government, that's where we get our funding from, and we develop material that's then shared between other teams or use some pilots for certain programs or, I guess, strategies that the government has. And my eyesight's quite bad, so I'm going to have to just lean in and then I'll be able to talk, but it's just the first slide I need to get some numbers from. So RMIT partnered with the Victorian Government to develop programs for both aged care and disability based on a Royal Commission of findings of what we needed to improve on with aged care and disability. And so far we've had 415 new workers join the sector and undergone the training that we've developed, and I think there's 384 being skilled currently. So it's a very large program and it will continue on. So we developed it, piloted it, and it continues to grow with student numbers. So, so we had lots of consultations in the lead up. We had the brief of what was required, and that was a Certificate 3 and a Certificate 4 in aged care and disability. And so we consulted with industry partners, so agencies that ran aged care and ran disability services, mid-tier managers in the industry workers, teachers, mentors, students, which was really important to us. Experts by experience, and by that we mean people who have disabilities and people who are in aged care, the families of people who are in aged care and disability who were receiving support for disability, and also program managers. So there was a lot of consultations, and it was really important to get that right at the start of the project so then we could move forward and design something that was going to have a really big effect on all of the stakeholders, not just the students that were undertaking it. So we took all this information, we knew we had to develop a certificate for, and we knew we had to make it suit all these people and have the outcome that the students felt like it was a really proper career. And I think that was something in the aged care industry. People didn't see it as a career, they just do it, instead of waitressing. So we wanted people to see it as a career they could really grow in. So we wanted everything to look really professional and feel really professional. We wanted it to offer real life experiences within a digital environment, which is really tricky. So we took all of the information we had from the co-design, and we found out that the participant was the core of disability support work. And so the participant in Australian disability support is the person with disability, but they're actively participating in, it's not even called care, it's just their life. So we had to really focus on that because we didn't know. I'm a learning designer, I'm not working in this industry. We found out that students wanted links to learning that were real life, and also our students were very busy. We found out that most of them worked, and we wanted to incorporate the lived experience ideas and the family ideas of people who had disabilities or in care, so it was customised to them as well. And then you can see up here, this is Miro. I don't know if anyone's used it. It's like you probably have. It's like a never-ending whiteboard, and we started collating everything on this whiteboard and building up first a process of how we're going to develop everything, and then looking into the more sort of granular details as we went along. And we made it colourful because we're learning designers. So we developed this program and we ran rapid testing, and we've sort of we've made a lot of really in-depth activities that had a really sort of narrative focus. And like, the students are going to love these. And they did, but they really wanted that really quick, oh, I got that, like one question, knowledge question. They didn't want to play this game we designed. They just wanted to know they understood the material, even though they did really enjoy it. And they also had some ideas about the way we could set up Canvas for navigation, which, interestingly enough, the ideas from our students I'm employing now across other projects for other things. So it was really good to get their feedback on navigation. And they said to us, oh, we want to keep all of the content after we graduate. And once you graduate a course, you don't have access to Canvas anymore. And we sort of thought, how are we going to do this? And we're digital. But we just made all the content into PDFs, and they loved it. And I thought, this is such it felt so old-fashioned, but they really wanted it. And a lot of them were working, and they print their documents off and highlight them. I don't work like that, but lots of people really love it. And just to do something as simple as that, which takes an hour to do a module into a PDF, they were just so happy with us. So that was a really interesting finding. And this should be a video of what it all was.
For me, it was really good. It was quite easy to understand once you got into it. The way it's laid out, it's just very intuitive. You can follow your way through it. I really liked how, especially when we do you learn the information in class and then you have an assessment. Then you learn the information in class, have an assessment. But the Canvas itself, I found, was really easy to understand.
I found it very engaging, even when we were online, just because it was so interactive. It was really easy to stay engaged, and it made it a lot easier to understand some of the concepts that were being taught to us. So using Julia, it let us relate some of the concepts we were learning about to an example. It wasn't just an open-ended concept. It made it a lot easier to understand and kind of grasp what we were learning.
Yeah, I thought it was really helpful. I think it could even be implemented more, so it was even more of a focus. I think it really helps to have a practical example. Sometimes you have it in theory, but when you can actually have a practical example that you can relate to or have as a real actual person, I think was really helpful. And then if you're invested in that person, you can see it from their point of view more. So it's just helps to learn in a better way. Does that make sense?
For that cluster, it was a lot more engaging, especially when online it's a lot more to stay engaged because you have those interactive things that you can work through.
Way more engaged. The short, sharp, here's the assessment, here's a practical assessment for that. It's more targeted and it keeps you faster paced, keeps you interested, keeps you involved. Less theory, more actual practical application, which I find really, I like to learn that way. I thought it was really good.
I enjoyed the ones where you would match the words to the terms or categorize the terms to the definitions and things like that. Having those interactive things made it a lot more interesting and a lot more enjoyable. So working through the assessments in the first cluster, I found it was a lot better. It felt like it was less stressful to work through because it was just a small assessment that you would do sort of at the end of class and then it was done. Whereas when it's all blocked together in one big assessment, it's quite intimidating almost. Having them broken down into the smaller sections made it a lot easier to work through and a lot less stressful.
I have done another Canvas course before, so for me, I was already familiar with it. But the way the new shell is, you stay engaged, you stay interactive with your classmates as well. It's not just read this information and forget about it in 5 minutes. It's targeted information, and then you have a practical component to show your knowledge. Did you actually get anything from that? And then, especially to do the learning activities, it doesn't seem so overwhelming if you have these short little goals to reach. Oh, this week I just have to do these knowledge questions. I really like this way. You can just, keep going along as it goes. So you, one, learn more, and then you engage with it, and then you don't get behind. I thought it was, really good.
Wow. Every time I sit in this room in a setting like this, I'm just constantly blown away. Just listening to my wonderful colleagues just share about their knowledge and experience, and even just to hear the passion coming out from them in their work degree. Yeah. So I'm blown away every day. Right? You guys okay still? Fantastic. Now, I'm going to introduce you to another program manager. I think this is the part where my kids would be happy to sit in and listen to, and you'll know why soon, all right? So I'm going to call upon Jesse Roberts. He's the program manager for screen media and digital media technologies. And I understand, Jesse, that you've just returned from Batam, Indonesia. And how many times have you been in Batam?
That was the first time.
First time. Are you okay to converse in bahasa Indonesia? Ya. Terima kasih, sama-sama. Ya, apa kabar? How are you? Yeah, okay, good. Look, I won't take up much of his time. Without further ado, I'll just invite my colleague, Jesse.
Morning, everyone. Lovely to have you here. I know that you've had a busy couple of weeks. I think you've been assimilating lots of new information, but today I'm glad to present just a shorter case study on a new program that we developed with a partner in Indonesia, Batam. And we went through a co-design process and also used the learning design team that you saw present today to develop a new program. But I thought what I would like to do is just actually start with some of the output of the work from the students, which kind of really highlights the skills that they've actually developed and the work that they've created as part of this new introduction to games design. So let's see here.
monster-monster legenda yang terlepas dari buku itu. Dengan bantuan senjata pusaka yang diberikan oleh si kakek, aku masih bisa menuntaskan tanggung jawab ini dan menyelamatkan semua orang. Walau terdengar sukar dan penuh akan rintangan, aku tidak akan menyerah. Karena ini adalah petualanganku. Karena ini adalah angulan darahku.
So what you were seeing there was some trailers that the students produced, which we used to promote and present their short games as well. And I think one of the things that's really noticeable and exciting about the games that they've produced is that really they involve local cultural representation and folklore that's included in them, which is fantastic. So they're really looking to assist with developing games that will be relevant for their own people. So what I wanted to do is present a brief case study, provide a little bit of background about the kind of partnered design programs that we put together, talk a little bit about the design, delivery and development. But first off, let's start with the partnership component. So we've been a partner with Infinite Learning, which is in Batam, Indonesia. The partnership commenced in 2021, and initially there was a focus on cybersecurity programs. So Infinite Learning is based at Nongsa Digital Park in Batam, which is part of a special economic zone in Indonesia, which is really there to try and drive forward the digital skills development of that region. It also hosts a number of data centres and businesses, developing business in that region. So Infinite Learning itself is a division of Infinite Studios. Infinite Studios is a film, TV and animation production company that has studios in Singapore and Batam. And really the focus of Infinite Learning has been really to develop training that supports vocational outcomes for the digital economy in Indonesia and the broader region, with work happening across Singapore and Batam particularly. With Infinite Studio's background in film, TV and animation, a lot of the technologies that they use are actually similar to the games design technologies, and their business has evolved to work with the games industry and work with games associations such as the Indonesian Games Association, to look at driving forward skills in that region, and also working with technology partners like Epic Games, who produce the Unreal Engine, which is what many games and films actually use for their environments. The other partner, so that's our learning partner, an industry partner in Indonesia. The other key partnership that's really enabled this program is a partnership with the Indonesian Ministry of Education's Campus Merdeka program. So if you're unfamiliar with this program, the program funds university students to undertake short course programs that are really breadth-fitting programs that are technology focused and have a focus on industry readiness to really push forward the employability of graduates of their programs. The other part of the background context for this program is actually the economic environment and the opportunity that sits around the growing games industry globally and in Indonesia particularly. You can see there's a little bit of statistics there from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy around the size and shape of the Indonesian games industry. And more recently, just in March, there was a presidential decree which really was focused on accelerating the games industry in Indonesia as well. So that's kind of really the context. The background is that there's a developing, growing industry which needs a developing, growing workforce to support it. So just briefly on the program, just to provide a bit of an overview of the actual program. So when we first commenced, we thought we were going to start with 100 students. That then turned into 300 students when we first started, and that was from a pool of 1,300 applicants. So clearly there was a need and desire for training. The training really focuses around a capstone project, so developing a functional 2D game, which you saw, so a platform or top-down game that produces a promotional trailer and presentation as well. So we worked with Infinite Learning and our SMEs locally and the learning design team to develop the program. So it's a 12-week learning program. In addition to that, there's 3 weeks of challenge-based learning that's delivered in Infinite Studios in Batam, where students, it really reflects a game studio environment where students are responding to a challenge that increases in complexity over time, where they have to turn around a project in a short time frame. The program itself is both synchronous and asynchronous. It's delivered online, so there's a large online group delivery component, and then there's a face-to-face small group mentoring component to it. Clearly there's a focus on digital and design skills with the program, but in addition to this, there's really another focus on industry awareness, entrepreneurship, project management and teamwork, some broader skills for the students. Quickly summarising the areas of learning, so the students come in and learn about games engines, design principles, game theory and ethics. They also look at story and narrative development, so all the stories that you saw there were developed by the students, and that was their own personal focus to drive forward the game activity. They also look at mechanics, game design, documentation, coding fundamentals, so the Unity is the platform. And they work with assets and the integration, so that's development of characters, environments, the animations. They also develop the user interface and the sound design that's behind there. And they also look at monetization within the game and broadly within the games industry. To move on to advanced game mechanics and play testing. And then ending up with the products that you saw. And really what we were trying to achieve or looking for in those games really was they had a innovative, engaging concept, that the concept was well defined, that the player movement and mechanics are refined and intuitive, that the level design is well crafted and engaging, the visual and audio elements are stunning and immersive, the user interface is intuitive and appealing, it enhances the gameplay, and that the game is basically a complete, polished and fully functional game. So that just gives you a quick overview of the kind of content and focus of this particular program. What I'm going to touch on now is actually just kind of I suppose really where we started from concept through to the development and implementation and then the evolution. So really in terms of actually scoping what we're trying to achieve, what we knew is that there was a growing games industry that needs a skilled workforce to support it. We know that it's similar here in Victoria and Australia. It's a common parallel that we share. So we're kind of aware of that and responding to that already. I think one of the interesting things about developing this particular program is that we're wanting to develop an introduction program that attracted people into the games industry as well, that was fun, that was appealing for them to engage with, to look at developing that overall pipeline of people who might work in the industry. One of the things that really drove the final product was actually landing on working with Campus Merdeka and their platform, which meant that the students would be third-year university students. But interestingly, when we first started our discussions in design, clearly one of the first questions was what language would it be delivered in and what would the student demographic be like. And initially we didn't think, we weren't aiming for that demographic, but because of the alignment of the funding and the opportunity, that's where we moved, which meant that actually some of the students didn't have a strong English. But we kind of worked through to go, is this going to be a problem? How are we going to manage that? You can see that many of the products were actually, completed in Bahasa, and certainly a lot of the training was delivered in Bahasa, but the resources were in English. So there's a fairly large kind of scoping piece for the project, trying to work at like how long is it online, how much face-to-face delivery, all of that was really explored. Then we kind of moved into the development phase, and where we kind of reviewed all our existing products, our training products to work out what might be relevant to this particular cohort. There's some excellent collaboration between our subject matter experts here and those in Indonesia to work on co-design. Then, like I said, we worked with the learning design team that you saw present just before, who really focused on a continuity of program, making sure there was an interactive element so it was engaging to learn. And then we developed some new videos and we developed the content and landed it in a Canvas online platform. So when it came to the delivery, a couple of things to note. So really, the people who are delivering it are industry mentors from Infinite Learning. So they don't necessarily have a background as educators, but what they are is that they are people who actually run their own businesses within the games industry who are industry mentors, which was the approach we wanted to take. And they want to take because they're really trying to develop people who have skills ready to enter the workforce. But because of that, we had to provide some induction to the mentors, really to just make sure that they had an understanding of how to work through the material, what the expectations of the actual kind of program were. We had support meetings across the whole duration of the delivery of the first program to make sure that we're just checking in with the mentors, that they felt comfortable with the material. One of the things we had to kind of check in about was the student expectations. We had, some students who actually came in and were quite skilled and wanted to do some 3D, work in 3D. So there was kind of discussion about, well, do we incorporate that into the program? And then basically kind of the delivery culminates in a group of 300 students who worked together in groups of about 6 who produced 50 of these games, produced the show reels for them, and then presented them to a panel of the mentors. And I was fortunate enough to be part of that group where we got to give feedback around the games. So that was our first delivery. So 300 students came through and felt very much like a success, achieved what we kind of needed it to do. But we wanted to kind of make sure, so we kind of look at the review phase where we basically surveyed the mentors and the students to check what their experience of the program was, whether they felt the length and the speed and the pace of the delivery was appropriate. Clearly, we had an excellent completion rate. I think everyone completed apart from those who were sick and didn't use the program. And then, the other review element was the game quality, so the end product. And clearly what you could see was that people were able to produce at a fairly high level in a short period of time, a decent quality game. So we felt like it's hit the mark, it's worked well. We've already started our second intake this year to another 300 students, which is fantastic. And the next stage for us is looking at the evolution of the program. Really, there was, because of the size of the market and the growing industry, there's a sense and an aspiration for growth to perhaps 1,000 to 2,000 over the next semester and year. So we're looking at changes to enrolment systems and platforms to just look at how we can assist in the scale up of this particular program, and also to inform what some of the new training might be. So, in a nutshell, so that's just a very rapid kind of case study of this particular program. I think that I might leave it there, and we'll take a few questions in a moment. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, much experience, knowledge, and passion. So what we'll do now is we will, I've got a go ahead, we'll do a 10 minutes break. Is that okay? Stretch, bathroom break, whatever, all right? And we'll come back to say at just before 10:40. Is that okay? All right, we'll see you then. Fantastic. Look, time-wise, we're okay. You guys managed to get some break. All right. So this next session will be a panel discussion. So I'm just going to invite my esteemed colleagues again back to the front. Why don't you, we just give them a hand. How many of you enjoyed it so far? Show your hands. Are we learning something? Okay. I'm sure this is going to be a two-week process. We can learn something from you. So how this is going to work is that I've got some questions that I've prepared. This is I'm going to ask each of my panel just to share just further information experience. And then after that, we'll open it up to Q&A. Is that okay? All right, go. Welcome back. Yes, you have Andrew, Jesse, and Jeremy. Thank you all. You're welcome. Look like you're about to sound cheap. That's you too. Okay. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just kick off this session. And so Jeremy has a mic in his hand, he's ready to go. Right? So he's probably going to answer the question before I ask the question. I don't know how that's going to work, but you never know. We work together quite closely, so no question. Anyway, so I think this is related to your presentation in here now. How was the importance or relevance of gender balance, accessibility, and inclusiveness received and action in Vietnam? Yeah, thank you for the question. I think
accessibility and gender balance wasn't something that was initially a very high priority when we were talking about digital innovation and digital change. But it actually became really clear that we needed to look in a holistic approach to who were the participants, what were the outcomes, and the direction that we should take. I think if I look at a couple of the, which I didn't get to say before, a couple of the actual problems that we started to solve were things like, I think in one of the vet colleges, there was a huge proportion of traffic that the college was dealing with, which were mostly inquiries from parents about what would happen to their children at school. And they found that a lot of the questions were very, very similar, but they were still using people to answer the phone calls and take those inquiries. So we wanted to look at ways that they might address those in a really efficient format. So they looked at chatbots and they looked at little things on the website that could help answer those, automate some of that sort of stuff. I think we're looking at RMIT leading by example in both our approach to tech solutions like that, but also our approach to inclusiveness and gender equality as an organisation. And it seemed to me that there was still some way to go in Vietnam as far as recognition of people with different abilities. We had two members in our class that were, one, Mr. High, had one leg, and one of our other participants was similarly disabled. And we had a great conversation about how to enact change around who could get a driver's license in Vietnam and who could not. And this was part of the extension, I think, of our conversations and the way we engage with people to come up with problems we didn't predict in the beginning. And what we ended up doing, one of the reasons was there was a disabled Vietnamese lady who was able to come to Australia and get a driver's license, but could not get one in Vietnam. And so when we went through that process of webinars and having them talk, one of our lecturers went and found some hard copy information all about modifications you could make to the car, books with all the pictures, all the specifications, all the details, and we sent them to the address in Hanoi. Mr. High took that. He was able to then take it to his local political leaders and say, look, they can do this in Melbourne. Why can't you do this here? This is the same thing. So these were outcomes we didn't expect. But so on various levels of inclusion, there were some unexpected outcomes.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was so amazing. Thanks for sharing that part. I'm going to move on. Is that okay if I move on to the next question? And how was the understanding conveyed that soft skills and people-focused change management were just as important as the software and tech capabilities in digital innovation and transformation?
Absolutely. What a barrier kept appearing was that people had tried things, but they didn't work very well because not everybody was on board. And that might not just be the school group or at a vet college, or it might not have been, for example, in the logistics industry, it might not have been that company, but it was all the stakeholders around, and which includes the various businesses, the social thinking, and all that sort of stuff to really help progress that. So when we talk soft skills, we were talking about relationship building, not just coming and telling people you must do this and that's it, because there was automatic barriers in that meant success didn't happen or didn't happen very quickly, or resistance was greater. And so I think that there was a real understanding of listening, being empathetic, really paying attention to some of those details, talking through the conversations, sharing. It's a thing that we teach the children to share, but when we get older, we forget. And I think that these are really important parts of that process.
Yeah. Fantastic. You guys agree? Very good. I'm going to move on to colleague Jesse Roberts here. Now, Jesse, you've shared about the partnership with NON's digital partner. That's what, since 2021?
That's correct.
Okay, so he said, what do you consider to be the key strength of a successful partner model of transnational education delivery? And are there any challenges?
Sure, yeah. So this has been a successful example, I would say. We've been fortunate to have a great program rollout, and I think perhaps part of the success is really the general desire of both and all parties to see impact, and that we really have perhaps an alignment of what we're trying to achieve together. I think some of the strengths of this particular partner model is that ultimately our partners in Indonesia are very deeply aware of their own market, their own requirements for training, what are the employment opportunities that will come out of this training, and that they're also aware of the economic situation. So what can students actually afford to pay? What do they see as valuable? What are the government supports to deliver the program? And ultimately, our role has been to go support their local vision with educational frameworks that support it. I think perhaps some of the other strengths that have really arisen from the partnership is actually the deep sharing from our experts in the field in the same industries but in different markets and sectors, and sharing the commonalities and the differences. So ideally, the programs that we end up making are stronger and perhaps allow students to have a greater mobility of skill should they want to move to different locations across the globe. So we're probably a few of the key elements that help with the success of these partnerships. And I think some of the challenges that you have to work through with them is actually just really taking the time to understand what the nuanced requirements are for the group of students that you're trying to train, and that takes time to develop that understanding, to develop the understanding of what cultural aspirations there are, what the economic climate is, and how we can actually work together. Clearly there's some language challenges at times. There's kind of, also I suppose some of the challenges are that we're a big university and you've got people who want to respond very rapidly to an opportunity, and we have to work to try and work in those timeframes. So there's some of the challenges of it.
Thanks for sharing. I think you touched lightly on this one, but how do you ensure that the training program was fit for purpose?
Excellent. Yeah, so I guess it's kind of a similar answer. So really deep engagement for starters. So it's really taking that time to actually understand what are we really trying to achieve, who are the students that will be undertaking the program, what is their destination, what's their background, what are they trying to achieve, and then also really surveying as well, really making sure that it's actually it has hit the mark when you deliver the training, and getting that regular feedback and then responding to it. So I guess that's how we do it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Yeah, like in anything, just understand the requirement, understand what the outcome would be. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Fantastic. Okay, I think come to you, Andrew. All right,
Next headline.
next in line. Let's go like this. All right. So the question for you is: how was the how was the universal design template uptake, and what lessons have you learned? Challenges have you faced?
Great question. agree with myself. Thank you. The template, I guess the development, there were a huge amount of challenges in the way, I guess, that I touched on earlier in terms of how RMIT has delivered, I guess, access and editable access. If I had my perfect world over again, I would, I guess, centralise a lot of the design, restrict a number of the editability, but that won't sail, then we have to deal with what we have at the university. So teachers want and need to be able to edit things at our university with current policy, with current access, and we need to be able to design something that they can use and adapt based on that. We guide, we instruct. So I guess one of the big ones was, I guess, understanding, as Jesse mentioned, understanding our cohorts. So our teachers are our end user, but it's also our students who this impacts on the most. So it's doing that work to understand all those pain points, working through them one at a time, understanding what we can impact now or what we might have to push into the future, and then working through the development that's required for that. So, and then it's a case of distribution as well. Canvas being so editable and manipulable is difficult to, I guess, push templates to that are user directed. One of the things we're looking into now is kind of automatically pushing these into shelves. But at that time, that wasn't available to us when we first developed it in 2020. But now we're looking to both build out in EMBL, look at our, I guess, make that delivery method a bit cleaner and less friction for teachers, because that's kind of one of the big things. Because at the moment, when teachers are trying to apply the template, they've got to understand a couple of different categorisations. So before they apply that, so that's kind of one of the big things. And I guess the great thing has been, I guess, seeing some of the student responses to some of the shelves that we've worked on in depth with teachers, and some of the feedback that we've received, like before and after, about how cleaner and clearer it is, and how they can understand the requirements. There's less effort required from them, and they can actually focus on and need to study on. So,
yeah, fantastic. So what are tools again, once again, that you use to support this system?
Sure. So there are a number of different tools. The accessibility check is a big one. One of the processes, whether it's our template or whether it's other design work that we do in more detail, we use that accessibility checker to kind of content check through everything and aim for that at minimum 90% up towards, in Jess's cases, they need to aim for even higher, up to 99% in some cases. So that's one of the things. EMBL's another great tool, which EMBL's a great example of something. I'm not sure how your institutions deal with this, but at RMIT, our policy is often to purchase an off-the-shelf commercial product to suit a need. And in the development of EMBL, which was actually in-house, completely different to what RMIT would normally want to approve, we asked the commercial vendor to look at developing something similar to this. This was at a time when my team was actually a part of the centralised development team, and we worked on this together. So the commercial vendor was asked to provide some solutions and costings, and what they provided to us, we could do better and more efficiently than what they provided. So we did it within a couple of short sprints, and it's now been, and that was back in 2020, and that set us up for great success in terms of doing that. So I guess don't be fearful of doing some things in house if you've got that skill set and that resource within house to do that. So yeah, EMBL is a great tool which kind of allows teachers to also kind of build in that interactive. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'll move on to Jessica. Jessica, now, do you use the similar tool?
We do use EMBL sometimes, but because EMBL's made in RMIT, it's made for RMIT systems, and because my team's projects get shared among all the tanks and universities, you can't transfer across. So usually if we want things to look like they do in EMBL, we'll write it in HTML, but it's not that bad. Yeah, it's good. It's good to use it, but it's not that hard to sort of just quickly put out if we send it off. Yeah, if that makes sense.
So that's the tool that you use to develop student learning.
No, sort of.
What tool do you use?
We use a lot of tools, so we use Canvas, and we'll sort of lay it out using Embl if it's sort of in-house or HTML if it's not. But then we embed all of our activities we create in LTIs, which I don't even know what LTI stands for.
I keep getting this wrong. Learning, teaching, interoperability, or learning tool interoperability. One of those two.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrew. So LTIs, we build things outside. Genially is one we use a lot. That's fairly new. I love Mentimeter. So you probably all know Mentimeter, but you can embed the student responses into the shell, and so it's live. So say they're doing pre-learning, they can engage with each other in a word cloud or little short answers, but they can all see it and you don't have to do anything. So once you set it up, you can just let it roll, and then at the end of each semester you can just clear the information and it's good to go for the next group. So I really love Mentimeter. H5P we use, it's fine. I think it could be made to look a bit nicer. It looks a bit old-fashioned now, I think, compared to some of the other things, but it's got some really good features. Like I like the quizzes in that. There's quizzes we use in Canvas. I'm trying to think what else we use.
Question. Obviously you build within Canvas. You've got the central tools like your quizzes and your discussion forums, etc. But we also use, in some cases, if we're looking at partnering with externals, there's a number of other, like a workplace-based. So we use PebblePad as well in some cases if there's workplace-based sign-offs required for some of the student assessments. So PebblePad allows us to give access to student work that they've completed to an external, which Canvas doesn't allow. Canvas is restricted to anyone with an RMIT sign-on. So if we wanted an external to do that, we'd have to go through a large rigmarole to actually get that access to that. So PebblePad allows that. It's as of I think 2-3 weeks ago been applied across the university, but it was only applied across a handful of programs, including one within the College of VE, the Diploma of Nursing. So they're workplace-based practice workbooks, which they've got 3 of, and also in the higher ed version, I think in nursing, in their Bachelor of Nursing and Midwifery, and one other. But now it's become more available. But yeah, there's like niche tools like that too. But I'll pass back.
I just thought of another one. So we're an Adobe Creative Campus, and we also use, most particularly, we use Adobe Express a lot. We use all the Adobe tools, but Adobe Express, you can make web pages very quickly. And I think you saw in the video, we based everything on one person and the students did all activities based around her. All that information was literally just chucked into an Adobe Express page and then embedded in Canvas. And it looks really nice and students can make it. It's free. I believe, yes, it is free.
Well, it's free for our students. License fees.
No, Express is free for everyone. Yeah.
The ability to edit.
That's
Yeah.
Okay, the final question to Jessica. Right, so, and what did you learn from the co-design that you could apply to future projects?
I think I mentioned that the students gave us such important feedback about having documents at the end of it, which was such a small thing, and navigation. So I'm just completing a project now for sustainable building design, and the navigation system that we developed in our co-design for the project that you saw, we've implemented before the students even saw it. So hopefully they like it as much. I also did a little bit of work in family violence, developing their courses this year and last year, and I created PDFs because of the feedback that I've received from the one that you saw. And they're such minor things, but they're so key. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else to add? Before we move on? Yeah. We will go to our Q&A session, but before that, I thought I'd just take this opportunity to thank the very hardworking people behind. We've got Anika there at the back. We've got camera. Gabby is somewhere, right? So Now let's open up to Q&A because after this, I know it's not going to stop. So we have a bit of time for Q&A. I've got the mic here with me, and if you could just, let's be, the usual classroom style, hands up, I've seen that. I'll pass on this mic to you, and you can ask the question. Maybe it's important, maybe just say your name and where you're from.
Oh my God, stand-up is a kind of respect too. For me, I wanted to know two questions. The first question is, you share here a lot about Vietnam. So for me, what I wanted to know is, RMIT is really, high profile in so many countries. At the time, why you're designing a course, Eastern and Western? So what's your strategy embedded, in a course design? Not only that, but also a person who are already finished your RMIT, is there any equivalent in a Western country while they are applying a job or something like that? That is the first question. Second question about a game design. I'm really interested that why you are showing at the game design. So when you are thinking about a game design, what is your added value and educational concept beyond that? Thank you.
All right, I'll attempt to answer your first question, and then you can have the second bit. I think if I understand correctly, the key thing about the relationship of what we're delivering is under specific government-to-government arrangements to build relationships between the two countries and look at specific areas of uplift and also that transfer of knowledge back and forth. RMIT has had their higher education campus there for 24 years. So they do have quite a presence in Vietnam, but we do look obviously at a very broad area, as you would notice from some of those other slides. I think that the stuff that I've been involved in has been just based around that relationship and those funding arrangements. For those ones in Vietnam, applicants will apply to be part of that training. And we open applications across industry sectors of interest and the vet sector, and that's how people apply to get in. From that, I think there is often job opportunities, employment opportunities, and networking opportunities that come from that. So does that answer much of your question? There can be. So as far as the actual qualification, do you mean? Yeah, and we recognise qualifications from every other country. So if you hold a qualification from India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, whatever, we will look at the equivalency of that and where it sits. So we will map that. Yeah, thank you.
Can I just have you to reiterate the question that gave some?
Why you are thinking about for game design? Is there any embedded for value added or educational concept beyond that?
Sure, okay, yeah. So the focus on this particular program really, like I said, was in response to a request from our partner to explore particular training opportunities that they felt valuable. The partner was an industry-based partner. The mentors really are industry. They're working in industry and use a mentoring model. And I suppose the focus of this particular game really was driven about what they felt were the particular set of skills they want to have a focus on. So for example, you could go much deeper into the development and coding, but that was not really the brief for this particular program. And I suppose really so we're looking at design and concept and narrative development. That was really particular a focus for this program, and also just really an attraction piece for people to consider, options for working and further study in the games design area. So I suppose kind of the value add to that learning. So there's a lot of industry mentoring models that exist already. People have internships and work integrated learning, but this was really to put a program of learning around that. And really this is a small component of a very big and broad set of learning within the games industry. There are many other fields in terms of 3D design and animation and 3D games, and much deeper interactivity that you can explore within the learning and the training skills. And this is really the next part of the exploration, is kind of working with other partners to go, okay, where do we want to take the learning to from here? And I suppose ultimately, I suppose our focus is vocational. It's really, what are the skills and knowledge that people require to aim at particular areas of the workforce. So really we are, in terms of next steps and what we're looking for, is we're monitoring the work opportunities for people and trying to provide solutions that help them upskill rapidly to be ready for that work. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Jeremy and Jessie. Are there any other questions?
Hello, good morning. I'm from the Philippines, from the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, and we are, just like Australia, we are competency-based. We have a platform which is Moodle-based, but it's a customized platform. It is multi-tenanted, meaning there are 180 schools inside the platform. And we use H5P for the interactivity contents. But my question is about assessment. We are actually looking for a platform that we can use for assessment. But since we are competency-based, we can make use of the quizzes for the knowledge content, but we are highly performance-based. So what are your thoughts about using an LMS for assessment in the potentials of AI in scoring recorded videos of performance?
Happy to start off on that. I'm sure everyone might have a bit of an opinion on this. In terms of our templating, one of the big things we did want to tackle was how assessments are delivered and designed within our college. So, as you're aware, performance-based, you can do it or you can't do it, and it's really important that that's reflected within all of our development work and our marking. With rubrics, one of the big ways where we deal with that within Canvas and our assignment settings. So we deal with whether it's performance-based or submission-based tasks in the same way in terms of a general theme, instructional text, and then really clear assessment criteria. You're either satisfactory or you're not satisfactory at it. There's a number of different settings that are required. I haven't used Moodle for a while now, but I believe similar settings are available and setups are available within Moodle to set up rubrics so that it's a black and white, satisfactory equals 1 point, satisfactory equals 0 points, or however you deal with that. We had to personally deal with a bit of a fear of points and numbers within our college. When we first moved to Canvas, people were taught don't use points where you can't use points, but it's more about how you communicate that to both teachers and to students, that it is okay to use that, and it's ultimately you're either competent at the unit or you're not, or you're satisfactory at a particular task or you're not, and how to get there. So that language and that communication is, I guess, the first hurdle that we had to deal with, and then it's a case of pulling apart those templates to make sure that teachers can use them, and it is really reflective in minute settings within the LMS where some of those things can go awry. So even within Canvas, you've got a rubric and you can click a button that says don't use the rubric to mark the assignment. And it's like, why would you use the rubric? But the option's there, and a teacher can tick it quite easily and edit the rubric to do so. So that's where it goes to I mean, if you're looking within Moodle, then I'm sure the possibility is there to do that. There are things that, like PebblePad, where you can do similar type of setups, but they are quite, once again, it's adding an additional system, so you have to have a reasonable understanding of the return on investment for that, and whether that's actually going to be beneficial to teach everyone a new system and then to deliver it via that. But that's kind of where we fit in terms of our templating work. So we're still working at this, once again, the more digital focused side of assessment development, because even now, when some assessments are designed, the rubrics are not written in a way that transfers well into delivery via Canvas. So you either need to split them up, you need to add a numbering regime, those types of things. So we're trying to front load that in the development process from a quality perspective earlier, rather than when it comes to us or when it comes to the teacher to apply that. So I hope that helps. But I'm sure the others might want to answer.
I don't actually have an answer to that, but I would love to be able to ask AI to fix the problem for me. That's what I would like.
Obviously, a short comment, I guess, on AI and assessment. So the AI genie is out of the bottle. It's something that everybody really will be using and will continue to be used. It's used by industry. In many instances, it can improve the pace that certain things can occur. But in terms of the assessment pace, I think ultimately, as long as you're being clear about what the acceptable use is of the AI function, then that's the key thing that needs to be articulated to students, because there'll be many functions of AI that will be totally appropriate for them to be using, that will actually be reflective of industry practice, and we should be encouraging it to be used in that manner. But when it comes to assessment, it's about being really clear about where we expect it's acceptable to use or not.
And sorry, I don't think in terms of the marketing side of things, if that's what you were also getting to, in terms of AI being used to mark, it's not something that we've looked into, but it's also, I guess, from our quality perspective, it is often the individual assessor's responsibility, having held both the industry qualifications but also teaching and learning qualifications as well. So from our quality perspective, I don't believe in AI marking without some form of human involvement or reflection would meet any of our criteria. But we do instruct teachers to be aware of AI and potentially put in there. RMIT have their own AI bell, correct, I believe, which is kind of a safe in-house AI where you can put RMIT information input, knowing that it won't go into the wider ChatGPT lexicon and be used later down the track. So that's what RMIT has created. Once again, it relies on people to use the RMIT version and not ChatGPT or some of the other Microsoft Copilot or those types of things. Copilot, I believe, is also a fairly safe use within at least RMIT. Being a Microsoft product, it's contained within our sign-up for that. But in terms of students using it, we always encourage teachers not to be fearful of it, as Jessie said, and to encourage the use of it, get students to critically evaluate outcomes and outputs from that and potentially use it as like a drafting tool. But we also use things like Turnitin and those types of things. We haven't turned on to Turnitin AI capabilities. RMIT and a number of other institutions decided against that because it wasn't yet tested and proven very well. I'm not sure if you've got experience with that, but if it's changed, this was last year, AI is changing at a million miles per hour at the moment. So we've used it in terms of content development and those types of things too, but from an assessment point of view, to assist in writing some questions in some cases as a first draft, but from a determination or a marking point of view, not necessarily at this stage. Yeah. We've been using VR in a number of cases. We're running a number of what we call mixed reality projects, so a number of different VR or MR or AR type projects. I haven't got any first-hand examples of that off the top of my head, but
some examples of the mixed realities and the VR uses. where you capture an environment that might be difficult to take students to, or take the volume of students to, or that might have some safety concerns. And so having a 3D scanning environment that students can engage in a VR capacity is voluntarily being used in a number of areas at the moment to extend the training, a work integrated type of training without having to have the risks or the challenges of bringing people into particular workplaces.
I think it lends itself really well to things like construction, workplace health and safety. We've used it. Nursing was another one we've seen it used, particularly I've seen it used with escalating violence in patients, because hopefully you wouldn't be in that situation, but you need to learn how to deal with it. And also end-of-life care for patients, I've seen it used in nursing, because as a student, when you have to demonstrate competency as a nurse, you have to show that you're able to care for someone in their end of life. Well, you can't guarantee that they're on a nursing placement that's going to occur, and it would be awful for people and their families if you had a student running around just waiting so they could do their assessment. It's really awful. So that's a really good place to use those sorts of things. And it's recorded. I know the VR is recorded, so you can see that the student, has performed things correctly.
Might add one example that's come to mind in the interim. So whether it's from an assessment point of view, I'm not 100% sure if this one is, but it's for air conditioning and refrigeration in particular. So we developed a kind of 3D tour of a large supermarket chain and their air conditioning vents and the roof and those types of things, where it's difficult to get a group of 20, 25 students up into that area. So students who've experienced that, in terms of completing assessments, you can then build in questions around that, those types of, but in terms of a performance assessment, you would still need to actually have a version of that in your building, because getting out to an industry base to get that evidence isn't necessarily 100% possible all the time. So you might use it as a learning activity in this case, to prep students, to prompt them that this is what it will look like when you go out there. You might take a tour if you get the opportunity to, but if not, then you've got that as a backup to do that VR tour.
I think just on time basis, I think we have only time for one question. But look, I know that there are a lot more questions to come. We can always email us to the team, but I'll take that one question and see how we go time-wise. Let's go back.
Thank you very much for the opportunity for the question. You mentioned about the ensuring learning success for MIT, right? So what is the key what the key factor that contribution to student employment outcome for a student? And what strategy does RMIT implement to enhance the employment of the student in RMIT? Thank you.
I think that's a great question, and I think that when we talk about what our purpose is, which is skills development and learning by doing, our engagement with industry becomes really, really important. And I participated a couple of weeks ago in a national forum looking at future skills and asking the question whether Australian vet providers are really providing the outcomes that industry needs, and are we efficient in the way we do it? And there are some inefficiencies, and there are some areas that need improvement. We do get stuck with funding models or compliance models that maybe industry has already moved faster than we can. So we need to form that relationship really strongly. I briefly mentioned a simple program that I do in my area where we embed students that love sport. We give them leadership and business qualifications, but they learn about what it means to run a very large business organisation like a sporting organisation. So if we look at that in terms of international soccer, or rugby or other international game, we could look at these ways where we embed the students in the industry to try and get those employment outcomes, because industry can see what we're doing, they can see the students. So we've also looked at, of course, a lot at apprenticeships, higher apprenticeships, other work integrated learning models where we invite industry to come and bring their problems, and then we might try and solve the problems for free for industry, but they will then get answers that they may or may not like from the students, but we will give the best answers that we can. But I really think if you're talking about how does the VET system work to really do what we're supposed to do, it has to be the engagement with the broader community and the engagement with industry to really make that success. And all the wonderful things that these guys do, providing that kind of tech support to be able to build to there is critical.
I'll just add to that briefly that kind of one of the key things is actually, in terms of our systematic approach to industry engagement, is that all programs have, each semester have an industry advisory committee that evolves and changes, and we meet every semester in particular discipline areas that relate to the program delivery. So it's really embedded in our processes to ensure that we have that regular industry engagement in a formal environment, and we capture that. We capture whatever the most recent trends are in terms of technology, in terms of workplace trends, where industry is struggling to get particular workers, so that we can, modify our programs to make sure that we're delivering the most employable set of skills that we can. So it's really embedded into all of our quality processes, is that semester-based industry advisory committee meeting.
Thank you very much, Jeremy and Jessie. I think we have time for one quick question.
Good morning, Marie from the Philippines. I'm especially curious about how you enhance engagement, and I'm not so sure about how the RMIT courses are structured, if it's fully asynchronous or is a synchronous asynchronous split. But I'm just wondering, how would you engage learners when they digest asynchronous content? Is it in the form of gamification, or is it in the form of structuring the learning journey? Yeah.
So the one I showed you, that would be blended. We don't have any solely online courses, so students that are always attending class. But we use, for that one, and for the ones that I developed, we developed using a flipped model. So students engage with the material prior to their class. So they come to the class and they're really confident with the bits and pieces that they're going to be tackling that day. And then it's the application of those skills in the class that they've already familiarised themselves with, in their pre-learning alone. But there might be opportunities for engaging with other students in that pre-learning too, through discussion forums, or I was thinking about Mentimeter. I use quite a bit of gamification. I like a game. But that one you saw, there was a lot of scenarios and case studies. The sustainable building design that I'm working on right now is based on, the whole program is based on one house. We got the architectural drawings, we built them into models, so there's all interactive things, and it links the real life into something that's got images, I guess. They can see it and feel it, and it's real. I was showing Andrew something before, I thought it was funny, about duct testing, and we've got things that show how it works. So there's definitely a lot of sort of gamification aspects. My favourite way to do learning design is to have a narrative approach, so which games have a narrative too, and I want them to really get involved with the story. And you could see with the students there, they were calling one of Julia. They were like, I really loved learning about Julia. Well, Julia was a fictional character that I invented who was disabled and had a support worker, but they loved her and they wanted to hear all the drama that was going on in her life. And as they went through the course, Julia started drinking wine because that was related to some of the things they had to learn about was ethics and law. So it made it quite interesting, and the characters in the one that I'm developing now are they're a husband and wife, they're in a bit of disagreement about the kitchen design they want. So I think having a bit of humour and a narrative approach really helps too. Yeah.
And just to add to that, from what Jess was saying, in terms of, I guess, our templating work and those types of things, there's some basic gamification tools within Canvas, which are kind of like when you finish your module, for instance, as a student, a teacher can determine what success is for that module completion. The student gets a tick. It's a very small thing, but that's a very small element of gamification that we've applied in our template work orientation, and we encourage to use it. Some teachers have used it in every module. Some teachers use it potentially after an assessment task or a learning activity is completed and align it to that. So those types of things from a structural perspective are also used. But yeah, as Jess was saying, having scenarios, relatable scenarios, industry-based scenarios, building that out. If you can't have an actual workplace, putting some work into maybe designing a virtual workplace and those types of things, so giving students that context relevant to the industry that the course is related to is really important. And they're being consistent with that. So building your virtual workplace, but then using every course that you're doing, build the assessments around that, build your content around that, and using that so students have that familiarity with that. So, but yeah, there's tons of different games within A5P that you can do. We've developed like small little like hazard pop games for students in the past. But yeah, from a structural perspective, I guess those are the things which kind of be consistent, make the most of students.
Fantastic. Jesse, that's it. Yeah.
Well, I suppose I was just going to look at the broader part of engagement that we also focus on. So our programs are largely applied, and I suppose in most instances, I mean, we also run film and TV broadcast production programs, so they're all really hands-on and applied, and so students actually get to use the equipment that they need for the skills. So they work in TV studios, they might take the cameras and sound and lighting equipment off-site to produce something. And the other thing in the creative industries, I suppose, that we particularly find helps with engagement is that really students often have a concept or something creative that they want to develop as part of their program. And I suppose what we're trying to do within our curriculum and assessment systems is give them an opportunity where they can take some ownership about a creative outcome and achieve what we're trying to see them develop and assess them on, but they take creative ownership of an outcome. That helps with engagement a lot.
Fantastic. Well, let's appreciate our panels. That concludes our panel discussion as well as our Q&A. But we would also like to thank you, especially for being here. Otherwise, none of this would have happened. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. It's a privilege to share some of our work with you today. I'm going to pass this time back to Gabby.
Excellent. And let's give another round of applause. After all of us here, we just wanted to thank the wonderful team at RMIT VE College. So Oz, Jessica, Andrew, Jessie, Jeremy, thank you so much for the insights that you've been able to share for the group. And I hope that for you, that it's really triggered some insight and thought about what you can do back at your home institutions as well. So very, very much a big thank you